Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a really profound tension. What happens when earthly authority clashes with divine truth? We're looking at source material that breaks down the framework of holy resistance. And really, it all comes down to the immense personal courage required to stand firm when the world is screaming at you to bow. It's tough, right? Holding on to your convictions takes a very unique kind of strength, and the text we're analyzing gives us a fascinating blueprint for exactly how to navigate that tension.
Take a look at this quote. When human power contradicts divine truth, God's people choose God. That right there, that captures the entire core conflict we're exploring today. Think about those moments where the pressure to just follow the crowd or obey the powerful, or even just stay quiet feels absolutely overwhelming. The source material reminds us that when earthly demands contradict divine truth, you have to make a choice. It's the ultimate showdown between the loud demands of power and the quiet, steady call of your conscience.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The tension of powers. 2. Daniel's quiet defiance. 3. The midwives' bold protection. 4. Jesus and holy resistance. And finally, 5. Courage rooted in love.
Section 1. The tension of powers. The conflict between conscience and authority.
You know, throughout history, we see this pattern where rulers misuse their power. They demand conformity, and they demand silence when things go wrong. But here's the thing, God's people are never actually asked to surrender their conscience. Instead of just fighting fire with fire, the faithful response requires immense personal courage, deep conviction, and love. And honestly, standing firm in those three virtues is often the biggest threat to unjust authority.
We see this with historical figures like Peter and John. When they stood before the council and said, "We must obey God rather than men," they were drawing a massive line in the sand. This kind of resistance, it's never about rebelling just for the sake of causing trouble. It's about an absolute, unwavering faithfulness to what is right. It means choosing righteousness even when it's incredibly unpopular, or terribly inconvenient, or even physically dangerous. That's the internal fortitude it really takes to hold your ground.
Section 2. Daniel's quiet defiance. The courage of refusal.
Sometimes, the absolute most powerful act of resistance isn't loud or violent at all. It's just quietly faithful. Think about the prophet Daniel in Babylon. When he was forced to worship a golden idol, he didn't start a riot, he didn't shout down the authorities, and he didn't fight. He simply refused to bow. His resistance was quiet, steady, and rooted entirely in his faith. Just imagine the sheer personal courage it takes to simply remain standing upright when literally everyone around you is bowing to the pressure.
Moving to Section 3. The midwives' bold protection. The courage of protection.
This brings us to Shiphrah and Puah, two Hebrew midwives who faced Pharaoh's totally evil command to kill newborn boys. This is actually one of the earliest examples of civil disobedience in Scripture. And civil disobedience isn't about creating chaos. It's specifically about defying an unjust or evil authority in order to protect the vulnerable and preserve life, even when authority demands otherwise. God honors those who act as a shield for the innocent. It takes extraordinary bravery to literally put your own life on the line for the survival of someone else.
When you look at the two sides here, it's night and day. Pharaoh's command was absolute. He demanded death and destruction. But the midwives issued a direct, life-saving counter to that power. They protected the vulnerable and they chose life. Just like Daniel, their courage wasn't this big public spectacle. But their steadfast refusal to compromise their conscience literally changed the course of history and saved a generation. That is the courage to stand firm.
Section 4. Jesus and holy resistance. The courage of confrontation.
Our third case study examines Jesus. He actively confronted corrupt leaders, but he did it without ever seeking earthly power. Jesus completely flipped the script with these rapid one-to-one counters. When corrupt leaders weaponized earthly fear, Jesus countered with love. When they tried intimidation, he stood firm with truth. And when they used violence, he responded with peace. By flat-out refusing to play by the rules of a corrupt system, he showed the absolute difference between sheer, forceful authority and true righteousness.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that love itself transforms into a tool of holy resistance. The source text makes this super clear. Love isn't just some passive, warm feeling. In the face of corruption, love is a firm, active refusal to participate in cruelty, oppression, or deceit. It's having the profound strength and personal courage to look straight at a broken system and say, I will not be a part of this, and I won't let it change who I am.
Section 5.
Courage rooted in love. What this means for us today.
So how do we actually apply these ancient case studies to our lives today? Well, the source text shows us that when authority becomes harmful, we have both the permission and the responsibility to stand firm. And it gives us 3 steps to do that. First, be people of conscience, know what's right. Second, be people of compassion, care for the vulnerable. And third, follow God's voice, even when earthly voices are loudly demanding that you conform.
Now, navigating all of this requires immense discernment. You have to know, deep down, that no earthly ruler can override your higher moral calling. But discernment also dictates how we respond. We don't stand firm with disrespect, or chaos, or anger. We stand firm with steadfast love. And honestly, that's the truest test of character, isn't it? To resist corruption without letting that same corruption infect your own heart.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. When the earthly voices around you grow loud, when they're demanding your compliance, your silence, or your fear, whose voice will your conscience follow? Think back to the quiet defiance of Daniel, the bold protection of the midwives, and the holy counters of Jesus. The personal courage required to stand firm isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being rooted so deeply in love and truth that you simply cannot be moved.